Card number 129 from the 1953 Bowman Color set. It's Russ Meyer. I've been waiting for this one to show up. Russ Meyer of the Brooklyn Dodgers, an interesting profile shot, most likely from spring training. The back of the card says the capable pitcher came to the Dodgers in a big 4-team deal shortly after the first of the year. Some of you guys know that have been following my channel for years that my channel first started out by doing 53-second videos of each card in that set. And of course, that's the video I just showed you. When those videos first got released on YouTube, on average, they'd get not a lot of views, 15 views, 50 views, sometimes 25 views. I just checked. This video for Russ Meyer has 900 views. And yeah, I was going to ask if anybody knows why, but here you go. Yeah. Russ Meyer is an interesting character, but not this Russ Meyer, a different Russ Meyer. So a whole bunch of people that were looking for that Russ Meyer instead watched a 53 Bowman Color video. I didn't get any thumbs down though, so I guess they liked it. If it's card number 129, it must be session number 129 of Card Room Live. It's not a show. It's a hangout for fellow vintage collectors. Whether we have guests or not, most of the time we waste time looking at and talking about cardboard, and through it all, we try to make it time well wasted. If you're here with us live, welcome to you. Welcome to the fellow YouTubers out there, to the commenters, to the folks from all over social media land. If you're new to Card Room Live, don't be afraid to say hello. This is the live stream where everybody knows your name. Rest in peace, Norm. And we may not know your name right away, but we'll get it soon enough. If you're listening to this later, you might be going to work, coming home from work, sorting cards, looking at eBay, rolling out the meatballs roll, walking the dog, sitting on the john, putting the kids to bed. Maybe wondering if Eddie Waitkus will come up tonight. It's always possible. Maybe wondering what other kind of Mike Fuller we're going to get into. Whatever you're doing, I hope you get something out of it. If you want to get in touch or you have ideas for future sessions, you can always email me at bowman53channel@gmail.com. I'm really trying to figure out my summer schedule, guys. So if you have an idea, if you want to hop on a live stream, send me an email. You can also find me on Instagram, Bowman53_Alex, on X 1953 Bowman Color, and on Blue Sky Bowman53. And of course, all that information can be found in the description below. This session of Card Room Live is brought to you by Red Heart Dog Food. Stan the Man says you should feed your dog Red Heart, the big league of dog food. It's available in beef, liver, and fish flavors. Doesn't that sound delicious? And as our friend Mookie likes to say, choosy dogs choose Card Room Live, and they choose Red Heart Dog Food. So good evening to everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody. Let me do a quick roll call and see who's here. We have a wrench holder. Stuke from Baseball Cards and Curiosities is not available for the tailgate, but he's working on it with Mike, the sports history collector. Drew is here. Absolutely. Thank you to all who gave us as we honor them on Memorial Day. Totally echo that sentiment. Jay Hawker is here. Beat Up Cards is here. What's up? Peter B is here. Mike Good is here. Video Guy 316. The Big Six is here. Good to see you, sir. We got another wrench holder here. Killabrew 3 is here. And here's Mike throwing some shade already. Peacemaker Cards. Litzy Sports Cards made it. Good to see you. Larry is here. Hammer 44 is here. Mookie Chilson. I already referenced you, Mookie, so you're in good shape. Mark Hoyle is here. Mitchell White Sox fan card collector is here. Baseball Time Traveler is here. Called Shot Cards is here. John Mangini is here. John, you've got plenty of cards to sort, so I'm sure you'll be busy. Hodges 1455 is here. Chris from Missouri. Orlando, a collector's dream, is here. So we got a great group of folks in here, and we have two fellow collectors waiting in the wings. If you saw the brief heads up that I sent out today, you know we have two artists that we're going to speak to tonight. And I'm going to bring them in, and we're going to get started because we have a lot of art and baseball cards to discuss. So I'm going to bring in this guy because we all know this guy. I'm not even going to say his name. We just know who he is. What's up, Scott?
Going on.
So Scott's an artist. We all know that. And we're going to talk to Scott about his art, which is going to be fun. But we have another guest here who's also an artist and also is into baseball and also collects baseball cards. And here he is, Sam from Sam Herder's Sports Art. Sam, how are you?
Great. Thanks, Alex. It's exciting to be here. Yeah, I just, as you were going through the roll call there, I recognized a lot of names, a lot of guys I've watched here on YouTube or that I've seen on Instagram since I've been posting my stuff. So hi to everybody that's watching as well.
Awesome. Great. Sam, thank you for being here. And in a sort of roundabout way, this was an idea that I guess a couple of us had at the same time, and it sort of came together. I reached out to Sam, was about to reach out to Scott. Scott reached out to Sam. We made the connection. And this is going to be fun because obviously you guys are both artists. You're both at least partially, if not completely, focusing your art work on baseball, but you also both collect. So we're definitely going to talk about art and what you guys do, but we're also going to talk about cards. So if anybody out there is nervous about whether or not we're going to show cards, don't worry, these guys have cards to show. But yeah, why don't we get started with where you guys started with your talent, with sort of getting into art. And Scott, why don't we start with you? When did you first get into creating things, I guess, specifically artwork? And then where did you at what point did you sort of take that on and decide to kind of to develop it?
I can't remember not drawing stuff. Like all little kids draw, but I just kept going and kept going. And I remember as a little kid, I wanted to do like Sunday comics, and I just never lost sight of like that desire to create art. So all my life, really.
Right. And then at what point did you, at what point in school maybe or something did you sort of decide like this is something that I actually want to pursue?
I don't think there was ever anything else I wanted to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably like 7 or 8.
Wow. Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic because when I was 7 or 8, yeah, that definitely was not happening. In fact, I don't think it really happened until maybe my mid-20s. So the fact that you kind of honed in on something is pretty rare, I would say, and awesome. Sam, how about you? Like, can you remember like early days of getting into drawing and artwork, and how did that get started for you?
Yeah, honestly, pretty similar to Scott. I think I was lucky enough to grow up naturally talented at art drawing. So it was something that I was just excited to do. Got a lot of positive encouragement from my parents, and my mom has a very artistic family. So I was lucky to see other people actually making a career of art painting, right, specifically. So that was huge, just being able to not just see it as a hobby, but actually know that it's possible to turn into a career. So then, yeah, just I was able to, my dad's a retired science teacher. So I'm from a tiny school in central Wisconsin, but in high school, I was able to take some AP drawing classes at his larger high school. And that kind of carried me into going to college for art. And then now I've been in the design field, kind of bouncing around in the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, and then now living in Wisconsin.
Okay. Fantastic. And before we kind of get into the artwork, let's try to do like a parallel here, because I'm going to guess, Scott, I kind of know a little bit about this from you, but, Sam, I'd also be interested to hear about this from your side. Being a kid and getting into baseball and collecting cards. And Scott, we'll start with you. Like, when did that get into your like daily life?
It was 1988 when I got my first like Panini sticker book. And
Yes.
I was 11 at the time, and it just grew and grew and grew. And all the neighborhood kids were collecting cards, and all the kids at school were collecting cards. And, you know, that late 80s boom was what started me.
Right. Right. Sam, how about you?
I was more mid 90s. I was born in 90, so coming into collecting was more like probably 94, 95. Taking my $1.50 a week allowance to Shopko, Kmart, and picking up those repacked packages of cards in the plastic holders that had 0 good cards in them, but it was still worth saving up for every week. And yeah, I mean, grew up collecting football, baseball, and then that just kind of faded for a little bit, but yeah, got back in like a lot of people with COVID and dove in head
Right.
first again.
Right. So, you know, at some point we should look at some artwork, but in fact, maybe we should literally do that right this second. But I have I'll pull this up here in a second. But I'll give you guys the question. I'm going to open up Scott's artwork first. But the question I have for you guys is, what drew you to focus on baseball in particular? And was that something that sort of happened almost immediately, or is it, you know, did it sort of evolve over time? Like, how did that happen for you? How did you just sort of settle on baseball as being a way to channel, you know, what you do?
For me, it didn't come about that naturally.
Yeah.
I was I started a YouTube channel, and it wasn't very focused. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. I was really interested in people that made stuff, makers, and then I went to a conference with a bunch of makers, and I can do some of that stuff, but I'm not like completely proficient at it. But you know, I can draw, so I was like, okay, I'm going to make my YouTube channel about drawing. So the original concept was I'm going to do a video every day, every weekday, and with a drawing. And it was very random, and I quickly realized that I needed to focus on something. And so like my first video was actually a baseball piece, but that wasn't the point of the whole thing.
Right.
But when I started doing doodles to send through the mail, TTM, because I did a little TTMing as a kid, and it was like I could do like that would be a neat concept. And so I started like these little baseball doodles and sending them out TTM, and getting them back, and I got a pretty good response to those. So I kind of like decided just to focus on that, and I'm pretty glad I did.
I love that so much because the fact that it was this experience that was in part the reaction that you were getting from people watching the material, and like your own sort of self-discovery as you're doing the work, is kind of fantastic. And it's obviously evolved a lot. I mean, you started with the TTMs, like you said, but you've gotten into like 3D work, like we're looking at right here.
I've looked back at the TTM doodles and like I cringe because I was just trying to draw quick.
I wonder where in the timeline is the 3D, like what we're looking at here? Did that come along towards the beginning, or is that a more recent style that you've been working on?
It's within the last like 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 years, I guess.
Those are great. Yeah.
It kind of mixes my making thing, because it like when I was into the making stuff, I bought a laser, and I'm always looking for ways to justify spending, $5,000 on a laser. And I thought it'd be cool to do these. And I think I was partly influenced by what's it, Steve Casino on Instagram. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he paints on peanuts. He paints little characters on peanuts, but he also makes these really cool 3D pieces out of wood, and they're cartoony. Like a lot of my stuff is cartoony as well. So I was kind of like influenced by that a little to make like kind of 3D pieces out of wood, but mine are like more parallax than completely 3D.
Oh, they're great.
Thank you.
Awesome. We'll probably come back to this
Okay.
group of work, if especially Scott, if there's anything that you would like to point out. But let me pull up some of Sam's stuff, and then we're not afraid of silence, guys. Multitasking. It's like trying to do a PowerPoint and talk at the same time.
Just
Sam, so I
enjoy
have
the artwork behind me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of have the same question for you, Sam, which is, how did you end up settling on baseball as being, something that you wanted to focus on to channel your creative energy?
Yeah, I think even way back to childhood again, I would draw Green Bay Packers and Sammy Sosa, Ken Griffey Jr., all the mid '90s stars, and a lot of times I would be looking at images from my card collection, so I kind of had that background. But then I mentioned going to high school in AP drawing, I had to pick a focus. And I was a big baseball player. That was my only sport because I stopped growing once I hit 5'8". So I settled on baseball, and that just was an obvious focus for my AP drawing class. So even back then, I kind of just innately knew that, hey, if I'm gonna be sitting around drawing and painting all day, why not draw and paint something that I'm already obsessed with? So it was an easy partnership, and then that I didn't paint for a while. I got more into the 3D design world. That's what I went to school for, more of digital design, 3D art. But then it was about the same time, 4 years ago, that I started needing that creative outlet again and picked up oil paints for the first time. And that was right in line with when I was diving headfirst into vintage baseball cards. So had those, which I love the artwork. That's what draws me to the vintage cards. And it just made for, hey, I want to practice some portraiture work. What can I use as a reference? And I had a Frank Robinson and Bob Gibson sitting there. So those were a couple of the first oil paintings I did. And same with Scott. I got some really fun reaction from people. I posted a couple to like the Facebook vintage baseball card groups and got some really cool reactions. So it just made sense. I loved painting them, and people seemed to enjoy looking at them. So just kept going.
Right. So kind of a question for both of you guys. You're both focusing on baseball, and clearly within, and we should probably look at some cards after this, but here's a kind of a more of a big picture question for you guys. You're doing baseball art. You both have distinct, unique styles, I would say. Sometimes they're card related, maybe not always. But baseball, I think we'd all agree is fairly known for its nostalgia factor. I guess you can be nostalgic about any sport, but I think baseball in particular, is really good at inviting people to be nostalgic about it. And that includes the way we think of players from the past, or like an important event or anything like that. Of course, if there's a problem with nostalgia, it might be that it is not always accurate. Like how important is accuracy to you in terms of whether it's the way that you depict a player or a moment, or if Sam, if you're replicating a card or something like that, how important is that, or how much creative license do you give yourself in terms of deviating from the reality?
Yeah, I think over time that's kind of evolved for me. Just my brain likes to work in exact replication. So I grew up drawing things exactly as I saw them. So it's honestly been some work and some progression in my work that I think over the last few years I've been able to work on pulling away from the reference material at least just a little bit and form more of my style, where I've been able to loosen up with the paints a little bit, not get as tied to every little detail. And I think the biggest aha moment for me was kind of starting to strip away those graphic design elements from the cards and the players' names and the logos. They're awesome on the cards themselves, but in terms of the portrait work, it made a ton more sense for me to move away from that a little bit, treat it more as a standalone art piece. And so, yeah, it's definitely evolved. I still am very analytical minded. I'm both left
Sure.
and right brain, so I fight that all the time. But yeah, I try to set aside the reference towards the end of the painting and let myself embellish and make it its own. Definitely.
Right. Scott, how about you?
I'm kind of the same way. I really like reference. I like working from something, and I don't necessarily like to make stuff up. Like you guys have seen, I did the Field of Dreams paintings with all the like Jackie and Larry and so on and so forth, and
Right.
that was really tough for me making that all up. And I spent a lot of time like researching and doing a lot of but back to answering the question, I do a lot of the more like cartoony and caricature stuff, and like I'm still really observing what I'm looking at and
Right.
kind of adjusting it in my head to fit what I want it to look like. It's really hard to explain it, but
Yeah, well, because it's interesting because it's like the caricature, and tell me if I'm way off, but it seems to me like the caricatures are often based on a reference image, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's exactly the same.
right,
And sometimes you're trying to embody something that's more of like a symbol of that person, like an all-encompassing image of that person, rather than just like one, accurate image of that person.
right. Yeah. I
I
want to
mean,
give it a feeling that goes beyond the photo.
right,
Mhm.
right, absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, we've somehow gone a half an hour without looking at some cards. Sam, since this is your first time showing cards on Card Room Live, I'm going to leave this up to you. Any cards that you'd like to share, and whether it's cards that you just enjoy collecting because you enjoy collecting them, or because you appreciate the artwork themselves, or just give us a little sense of your collecting style, I guess, and what you're into.
Yeah, I've got a little stack here, so we'll see where the night takes us. But
Okay.
I'll start out with kind of the first big ticket card that I picked up was Bob Gibson rookie card in 59 Topps.
Great.
I used to go to the Twin Cities card shop all the time when I lived closer, and I looked at this one a few times and finally picked it up and talked myself into spending triple-digit dollars on a card, which I thought was insane at the time. But yeah, I also show this because I've just started mocking this one up with the pink, so this will be an upcoming painting. I'm really excited because this was the first kind of banger rookie card that I picked up, and it opened the door for me to kind of dive deeper and start letting myself stretch the budget a little bit. So love this one. I mean, you can't argue with that pink background.
It's fantastic. On a side note, it always makes me think of an apartment that I had a few years ago. Like, I live in Savannah, and there's a lot of old houses in Savannah where the bathrooms have not been updated. And I definitely had what I called the Bob Gibson bathroom, because it was that same pink. I don't know if it works in a bathroom, but it definitely works on a card.
Great. Well, now I'll think of your bathroom every time I look at this. Look at this card.
Yeah. Anything else you want to show real quick?
Yeah. You want me to just? I've got a bunch here, so we can keep rolling.
Yeah.
Otherwise, here's another one that's just behind me. You can kind of see the painting, but this was once I picked up this I think the 55 Bowman set, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that it had to grow on them over time. And I was the same way, where I think I got stuck on that TV frame, which I
Right.
do enjoy. But once I really started looking at the imagery of the set, there's some great photography in that set. So once I had that revelation of, hey, why don't I just strip away that TV if I don't love it? And when I focused on the portrait, it's just such a cool pose. And I also did the Willie from that set, and they really mirror each other. So I love those two cards next to each other. But
Yeah,
yeah, the imagery in that set is great.
I totally agree, and I do like that set. But I do feel like most people get hung up on the TV, and you're right. Like the photographs are awesome, and just the opportunity to see it without the TV. Not that I don't like the TV, but just to see it without that is kind of like refreshing.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah. I can keep going. Do we want to bounce around, or I can just keep showing a
Yeah,
few?
let's have Scott show a couple.
Sure.
Well, Mike said he wanted to see some Don Mossy cards, so we've got a Don Mossy rookie card.
Thank you.
And here's an autographed Don Mossy rookie card.
Wow.
And here's an autograph 56. And a 56 and a 5. And a 56 and a 4. And I think that's all I got at my desk right now, as far as Don Mossy goes.
Don Mossy extravaganza. Awesome. Sam,
Yeah.
a couple more.
Well,
It's hard to
kind
beat
of
that.
on par with Don Mossy. This is other end of the budget spectrum, where, yeah, I think being able to get into the painting and deeper into the card collecting kind of led me down the rabbit hole. And this was one of my first Grail card that I picked up towards the end of last year. And it also kind of opened the door for me to start picking up authentic cards and cards that had just some really unique wear to them. Because I mean, I love the fact that it's got the tape on it, the residue, and some of the paper loss. I like the idea that you line 100 of these up and I would be able to pick mine out of the lineup. So
Right.
yeah, love this card. This is another one that I painted as soon as I bought it. Pretty much, I knew that I had to, with that purple background. And his pose isn't the most flattering, but it still makes for a cool card and cool painting. So yeah, this one definitely my first Grail, and since then I've been lucky enough to pick up a few more. But
That's
I
cool.
love that
So
your
like
pickups
actually,
inspire you to do the art. That's
yeah.
I was gonna say like it's cool that doing the art is like tied to your collecting as well.
Yeah, that's been huge. I mean, I think they go hand in hand. That's why when I actually had some income to spend on cards when COVID hit, working from home and not really doing anything, I was naturally drawn to the vintage, just because, I mean, all the early Bowman, just all the sets are so unique and so colorful that it naturally was just my artistic brain just was drawn to those 50 sets. Originally, I started off thinking, oh, I'm going to finish every set from the 50s, complete sets. So I was a major completionist, and since then I've definitely pulled back on that a little bit. I still have a bunch of binders that are 80% full, but shifted to more of the big ticket cards that have influenced paintings. So they definitely work well together.
Right. Okay, awesome.
I've got a few more if we want to keep showing cards.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's hang on to them for now.
Cool.
We may need them. But I got a question for you guys. I think we'll start with Scott. And guys, if there's any particular images from the stuff that you sent me that you want to show in relation to this, just let me know. But I was curious if you could talk about your creative process in as much detail as you're willing to give, in terms of and I realize this can be different from project to project, but just a little bit about the nuts and bolts of what actually goes into it, whether it's, including your thought process, but also just like the actual step by step of the materials that you're using and that kind of thing.
So it totally does vary from project to project. A lot of these are commissions, and people are asking me for specific things. And then, like, the first step is finding the right reference, and
Mm,
um, it's not super easy. Sometimes reference is mislabeled, like Kurt Flood, and
right.
um, sometimes, like, you got to find something with the right feeling to it, and
Hmm.
that's hard to describe. You just kind of see it, know it when you see it, and then you got to find something with the right, like, form that, like, can be captured in a painting or a drawing. And so that's the tough part, and you got to get that step right before you move on, because if you don't, then the rest of the project is messed up.
Right.
And yeah, um, and then I'm kind of moody, so, like, I do like that I'm able to switch from, like, more caricature, cartoony stuff to more polished paintings and crazy 3D pieces and things like that. And,
Hmm.
it's whatever floats my boat in that moment in time.
So that's great. So you can kind of switch back and forth between different projects depending, because I can appreciate that when if you've got two or three things going on at the same time, if you hit a brick wall,
Hmm.
either because you're just not sure what to do or just because you're kind of tired and you need a break, you can switch to something else.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to, like, hop on the computer and do something, or go down in the studio and do something analog. And yeah, like, it keeps things interesting for me.
Hmm. I'll just ask you about this one in particular. Just kind of scrolling through your stuff. Is can you, um, you know, give us a sense of the process for this one?
All right, so this idea was not mine. It was George from Diamond Yard Sports Guards. He
Right.
reached out and asked me if I wanted to, if I could do a satchel for him. And um, he asked me that because, like, he knew that I was into Satchel Page, and he was all excited. Like, he wanted me to be excited about the project, which, like, I really appreciate. Um, but he had this photo which he had never seen. Like, he didn't see it a lot. I think I'd seen it like one or two more times before then, but, like, it's a really nice photo, and there's good shadow in there and form and everything, and it would work. And he wanted it to be the 41 play ball,
Right.
and um, which I thought was a brilliant idea. Like, not all the I never have great ideas. All the good pieces are somebody else's idea. But yeah, that was totally his idea. And what was I going to say about that? It, I the the parallax part of it, though, was like, I talked him into that. He didn't know what I was talking about, I don't think. And
Right.
um, once, like, he was just open to whatever input I had, which, like, I appreciate that too. But once he saw it, he was blown away, and it was I was very happy to give it to him in person, because it was just a really cool experience.
Right. I mean, it's funny because it really lends itself to parallax, especially with his step forward.
Hmm.
And you can see the shadow uh, on the background from his arms, just at least in terms of the way you've lit it here. Um, yeah, it's fantastic. And I like that um, the paint, the brush strokes are a little rough
Yeah,
uh, in a in a textured way that makes it kind of um, I don't
extra
know.
3D.
It just has a great feel to it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
is that layers of wood? Did you
Yeah,
say
yeah.
it's yeah,
It's layers of wood.
that's awesome.
Very
So I
cool.
think, like, doing trading cards like that, and that really works with the parallax. And, like, all the T205s that you see there too are done the same way. And I, I just had a blast working on those.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
Sam, how about you? What's your process look like?
Pretty similar. I mean, I think as I've been getting into vintage, my eye is instantly drawn to some sets over others when it comes to the photography, the lighting, and just I know that I can look to certain sets when it comes to references, and they'll make better paintings just because they have good contrast, good lighting. So there's some sets that definitely don't lend to painting, so they would be a lot more difficult to turn into kind of a finished piece, at least in the style that I like to work in. So yeah, like a lot of these, they just, I think a common thread between all of them is really sharp lighting that highlights their facial features and also introduces some reflected color. The Clemente, I had fun kind of exploring the different reds and yellows in the skin tone just from the sunlight reflection and tying into the yellows and golds from the hat and the jersey. So really just trying to find those images that as a cohesive composition, they work well with background color, lighting, and just being able to hit those pops of kind of color at the end that really make it stand out. But yeah, definitely my eye is most drawn to really strong lighting and focusing on those facial features.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to shout out this Manco Jackie because it's card collectors know this image and we've seen it. Not a lot of us actually have the card, but we've seen it, and I definitely appreciate it. But to actually see it as a painting, it totally lends itself to to seeing it, I think, nice and big as a painting. How did this one come about?
Yeah, so this was actually a commission, and honestly, I had maybe seen it before, but when I was sent the image of the card, I didn't remember it, and it was instant love at first sight. I think similar to the Bob Gibson. I don't know. I've got a thing for pink, I guess, but yeah, this image was a commission, and same thing. I was lucky enough to have been able to kind of dive into my own style where I strip away some of the card elements and just focus on the portrait. So we're able to work together, me and the person who bought it, and kind of came up with this design, removing some of the Japanese font and focusing on his face, which I think was really powerful. And also I didn't want to not do the symbols justice and have it say something that I wasn't trying to have it say in Japanese.
Sure.
So yeah, but this was same thing. Lucky enough that somebody had the great idea to bring this card to me, and it was definitely made to be painted. The colors, the gold, the blue, and the pink really lended itself to a painting.
Right, absolutely. And I also have to show this one. I happen to have this sitting right here.
Nice.
And I'm working on a video right now about this card. So when I saw this one in here, I was like, "Oh, that's great."
Yeah,
and I like that it's actually it looks like it's sitting on a desk, maybe.
Yeah. I had initially I've done other cards in this style where it lended to fit a more standard frame size with those T206s because they're such a unique dimension that I needed to widen the frame a little bit. And so, yeah, I painted it to look like it was sitting on an old wood floor or wood table desk maybe, and trying to just give it a little bit of a natural frame within the image. But yeah, that worked out well. I've done that for a few of those random sized T206 tobacco cards that don't like to fit frames unless you extend the canvas a little bit.
Sure. Here's a great question from Drew, Clean Cheap Shots. As far as art cards go, and I'm guessing he means just cards where you can clearly tell they were illustrated. What are your favorites from the vintage eras?
I'm kind of partial to 50 and 51 Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
If you could show the one that I did for Nina, her dad.
Oh yeah, yes. Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that one go by, and I remembered when you had done it, and it's really beautiful.
So Nina had asked me to do this in the style of a early 50s Bowman card, and I was so excited about it. I think that's one of the first set. I love sort of the black outline on the figure that kind of gives it a little bit of a cartoon look, but like not really.
Right.
And I use that a lot in my work. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes me think of you.
yeah,
So you have kindred spirits and 51 Bowman artists.
right.
Cool. Sam, how about you?
Yeah, I think kind of along those lines, I purposely grabbed this one. It's Gil Cone. I honestly don't know much about Gil Cone, but this has always been one of the prettiest cards that I think I have in my collection. And I think there's a lot of cards. I recently did an Instagram, a couple posts of 51 and 52 Bowman, where I just went through, separated myself from the actual players and big names, commons, but just looked strictly at the artwork and picked out. And I was reminded just how many cards in those sets are. They have such cool shots of the stadium, and you get a glimpse of some of the bleachers behind, or the dugouts, or just like this one, the sunset evening sky with the purple clouds. And yeah, I mean, they really took some care when it came to composition and color and lighting. So I really appreciate that, especially obviously it's not just photography. I love like the 55 Bowman set. They really took some care in the lighting and posing, but when you take it that next level, and I know they had to think about every color they used here so that they were thoughtful about it, really makes this set and 51 Bowman really special.
Right. Totally agree. Guys, let's see. Let's talk about social media for a second, because clearly for both of you, social media has been kind of a huge impact, not just in terms of like, I'm sure, reaching an audience and that sort of thing, but it sounds like it also has had an impact even on your process, or maybe consciously or subconsciously helped you evolve with your work. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about maybe how you saw social media when you started and how you see it now, and just, I don't know, a little bit about, from your side of things, from your perspective, interacting with people, or like, how has it been for you in terms of, because gosh, just thinking back, because we're all old enough to remember the world without the internet, and just how interesting it is, to me at least, that there's such a back and forth of what you do versus how people react to it.
I've always found social media interesting because it allows me. I'm not a social person, but it allows me to be social, and
Right.
It's kind of fascinating to me. Can you bring up some of the self portraits? You have those, Andrew?
Yes.
All right. So that was actually one of my first like social media experiments. It was about 8 years ago on Facebook. Like every week for about a year, I started like doing a different self portrait and like changing my avatar. And these like have nothing to do with baseball, but like just I got a lot of really cool feedback from doing these. And actually, when I started the channel, this was one of the projects I was working on too. But every week I would do a different self-portrait in a different style, and I would like use other people's styles, and it was just really fun. And I like experimenting with these kind of projects.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And obviously everybody,
There's me as a pancake.
Some, maybe they notice, maybe they don't, maybe they keep up with it, maybe they only see a couple of them, but just to have people reacting to it, and the fact that it gives you the creative license to change it up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I've always heard, whenever you're trying to do something, it's about repetition, and it's about like doing it as much as you can, but also like challenging yourself to come up with new creative approaches. And this seems exactly like that.
Yeah, it's totally become a part of my art, and it's definitely made it easy to get noticed. And I know Sam's like Instagram presence has been amazing. It like he's always there. Like he's doing a great job with it.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I think I was of the age where I was in high school when Facebook just came out. So it wasn't until very recently that I actually saw social media as a way to get my artwork specifically out there. It had always been a part of my adult life, but more so just to, I don't know, here and there I would post pictures. I was never real engaged online. I would end up just scrolling and looking at other people's work, which was great. It was a window into a lot of artwork and sports cards and just other people's lives that I wouldn't have had otherwise. Um, but it was, I think, at the beginning of this year, I kind of had that aha moment of, hey, I don't need to feel like I'm bugging all my friends and family with my artwork all the time if I just start a separate Instagram. And so I spun up my sports art Instagram, I think back in February. And that kind of took away that nervousness of like, oh, should I post this? Should I not? Are people getting sick of seeing my baseball artwork?
Right.
And so as soon as I did that and I didn't have that stigma anymore or worry, then like Scott said, I think I haven't slowed down since. It's given me new life into my own card collection where kind of every day I like to do one post at least of some of the cards for my collection. It's really kind of reintroduced me to studying my collection, trying to group them differently, pick out ones that have a bit of a story to them or some meaning. And so it's meant just as much for me to kind of give some I think motivation to keep painting, but also to keep collecting and to keep reflecting on my work and my collection, because people have been great about reaching out with encouragement and pointing out things about my own cards that I didn't know, or
Right.
backstories that I'd never heard before. So I hope that it's mutually beneficial, that people enjoy the things that I'm posting, because I'm getting just as much out of everybody's comments and feedback and some of the stories, and seeing the artwork and cards that everybody else collects. It's been really cool. Yeah, it's my own little baseball obsessed world that
Right.
feels specifically curated for my mind, which is great.
Absolutely. All right, guys, a couple more questions. And then if we have time for any additional questions from the chat. Are there any, because I know you guys both kind of mostly focus on commissions, so it's not necessarily up to you. But are there any players or moments from baseball that you have not yet tackled that you're looking forward to doing it at some point, or you hope that it comes up at some point?
The one for me that I know is coming up is Jackie sliding into Yogi.
Oh, okay.
Pretty excited about that one.
Nice. And you could just sort of debate it endlessly, Scott,
Yeah,
as you're creating it.
yeah.
Like the first day, it's like, no, he's safe. Next day, no, he's totally out.
Right.
Sam, how about you?
Yeah, I mentioned that 59 Tops Gibson. This one will be coming up here soon. That one's
Yep.
just not a commission. That one's just for me, and it ties in directly just because that's been one of the longest term cards in my collection, and I'm excited about kind of photoshopping together my reference for that one. But also Ernie Banks is one that I've not painted yet, but I had stretches of my childhood where I was a big Cubs fan. Even though I grew up in Wisconsin, I had a good buddy that had a lot of family in Chicago, and my dad took me to Wrigley Field for a few games. And Sammy Sosa, obviously, I would pretend to be Sammy Sosa every time I picked up a bat. So big Cubs fan, and I'm surprised I haven't painted Ernie yet, but he'll be. I'm gonna definitely tackle his 54.
Oh, nice.
This was another Grail card, and another one I had to stick with my tape residue and paper loss theme that I've got going in my collection. But yeah, this one will be another one. I did the 54 Hank rookie, and the Ernie will be not far behind, definitely.
So you're going to do the whole card, or you just the portrait?
I think just similar to I think I sent you the Hank Aaron one, Alex, if you have that
Oh
one
yeah.
handy at all. But I'll hopefully treat this one the same way, where it'll be a little bit less interesting. I might have to do some creative work on the background so it's not just a white canvas behind. But my focus would be on the portrait, similar to what I did with Hank.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, those two definitely. And then I've really been fortunate. I've done a few Jackies lately, but Jackie and Roberto have been a lot of fun. For some reason, they're just more enjoyable to paint than other guys. I find they have really strong features and just some great card references as well. So that plays a big part in it. Yeah.
And they're easy to sell.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, they're liked. They're very much liked.
Definitely.
One last kind of goofy question, guys. If you could hang out with any baseball legend, living or not, keep in mind though you have to be painting him while you're hanging out with him. Who would it be and why?
Oh man.
Oh, wow. You don't think he'd be like a little concerned with like how many Don Mossy cards you have, and
Not at all.
a little nervous about?
And
Yeah.
I've never drawn and painted Don Mossy. And
Have you never?
No
Wow,
way.
No,
That's an interesting fact.
How? He's a human caricature.
I know.
Sam, how about you?
Oh, that's a great question. Just looking at some of the cards next to me, I think I'd have to go. Looking back at on YouTube, some of the other vintage baseball that I've gotten into is those old reruns of the home run derbies from the 50s, where you actually get a little glimpse into some of their personalities. And I just stick to the Ernie Banks theme, that he just seems like such a kind soul that would be
Right.
someone I would want to spend some time with. And he just seemed like happy to be there wherever he was. Like he knew he was lucky to be playing. So I think that's the type of energy I'd want to be around. And like I said, I haven't painted him yet, so that'd be perfect timing if
There
I
you
could
go. Yeah.
hang with him and paint him for the first time.
Yeah, because he'd have to hang around for a couple hours, right? So it's
Oh
like,
yeah, at least. Yeah.
you want it to be like a good time.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, do you guys have any last pieces? Because I mean, obviously, you guys sent me a ton of stuff. I didn't necessarily show all of it. Any in particular that you wanted to put up real quick and maybe talk about, or a card, or?
I really liked the Tim Keefe, the big portrait, the Goodwin Champions one.
Yes.
With his mustache. That was another commission recently that one's 24 by 36, so it's a big boy, and so it was a fun challenge of a card that I'd seen. I've never collected much of the pre-war, but it was really cool to kind of take something, the tiny tobacco card, and imagine it in a large scale. And obviously such an iconic face with that mustache and the old checkerboard jersey, quote unquote. So yeah, just a lot to like about this card, and it was a lot of fun just trying to loosen up and recreate at large scale, use some bigger brushes. And that one specifically helped me kind of break out of that detailed mindset, because I tended to paint a lot smaller. So this one helped branch me out and get some bigger brushes in and throwing around a little more paint. So I really appreciated that.
Awesome. Yeah, and I totally agree with the idea of appreciating pre-war on a larger scale. You can really just like take it in when it's on this larger scale. Scott, how about you?
I like totally agree with what you just said, because when I was doing the T205s, I was actually looking at the art on those, and it's actually really bad. So I went through and I found photos that were either the photos I used are close, like they're not, like if you know the cards, you know a lot of them aren't exactly the same. But yeah, the same thing. It was just really neat to to get into these guys' heads, and
Mm.
um, these icy stares that they have are just great.
Mhm.
Yeah, the speaker for me in particular
Mhm.
is the icy stare to end all icy stares.
And then Sai's my guy, so like that one was,
Yes.
and I kind of did that for me. And people ask me how much these are, and Sai's always $100 more, and they're like, "Why?" It's like, because I like that one.
That's a good enough reason.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we should probably start wrapping up, guys. I'm going to guess most people in here already know this, but just in case anybody doesn't, where are the best places to find you all on social media?
I'm most active on YouTube, and I'm also fairly active on Instagram. So Reindeer Studios.
Reindeer Studios, right here.
Oh yeah, nice. Now I got to get some T-shirts made.
Absolutely. And Sam, how about you? Yeah.
Yeah, this is my YouTube debut, so I appreciate that. So I am not active yet on YouTube. I'd like to be. You guys are both big influences there, but I'm most active definitely daily on my Instagram at Sam Herder Sports Art. So I post a ton of my own collection, and I try to do time lapse videos of most of my paintings to show a little bit of the behind the scenes of my thought process while I paint. So try to keep it interesting, but yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram right now.
I like that you post your collection too, because a lot of artists don't like either don't collect or just don't do that. I'm kind of thinking like I want to post more of my collection on Instagram as well. Like I show it on YouTube, obviously, but I think that's a great idea.
I feel like that has connected me to just as many, if not more, people that follow me. I have
Right.
more random one-off conversations with guys about cards than I do about my paintings, and it'll always weave back and forth where I'll be working on a commission and guys will show me other cards of that player or introduce me to the rest of the set, like the Menko cards.
Right.
It's definitely going down that rabbit hole, and so yeah, they're very intertwined, and I try to show that on my page too.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, we're probably just about out of time. Don't forget, everybody, for collectors. We'll start in just a minute or so, but Scott and Sam, thank you both for jumping on here and sharing your talent and your art and your cards. That was
Thank
good
you.
too.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, guys, if you liked this live stream about nothing, although today it was about something, give it a thumbs up, and we will see you all next Sunday night. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Alex. Bye,
Thank
Scott.
you.